So, if you would have told me years ago that a small handful of daily habits would be the reason that I was able to lose 50 pounds and keep it off for over 13 years, that I would be able to build a multi seven figure business from scratch, and I would be able to actually create a life that every single day I get to do things that are aligned to me, that are things that light me up, whether it be coaching my clients or working in my business or being with my son, I would have told you that you were crazy. Like, I would be like, no, where is the master plan? Where is the 25-step blueprint to success? And it really boiled down to habits. So these 5 things, they aren't fancy. You don't need a perfect morning routine. You don't need a 10K mastermind. You need to do these things consistently. Okay. So what are they? Let me share them with you. So the first thing that I do, and I still do these 5 habits daily, but the first one is to move my body. Now, movement is, of course, it's amazing for your health. And one of the things we talk a lot about at Fit Chicks Academy is the importance of building lean muscle mass and working out and taking care of your physical body. But I want to look at it from a bit of a different perspective. So for me, movement, it really is my anchor. It brings me back into my physical body. And also for me, it really is about helping to shift my energy, both physically and mentally. So I want you to think about this. When you're in a really bad mood and, you throw on some music and you dance in your kitchen, do you feel differently? The answer is probably yes. But most of us aren't moving our energy. We aren't giving ourselves the space to change our state. And for me, when I first started really going on my weight loss journey and I was struggling with my weight, exercise was always my punishment. I saw it as this thing that, I had to do because I had eaten something that was quote unquote bad, or I had to burn off calories, which is the way in health coaching we typically talk about it. But now movement is not just that. It's about, again, moving energy through my body. It's allowing myself to start my day off in positive power, in feeling good in my skin. And I tell my students all the time, if you're having a bad day, and even if the only space you can move in is your chair sitting in your office at your desk, just start having a chair dance party. Even just pumping your hands, right? If you've ever followed people like Tony Robbins, he talks a lot about changing your physical state will change the way that you feel. And that's really what it does. It changes the way that you feel in your body. You suddenly feel more positive. You feel clearer when it comes to your thinking. You feel like you can think better. And then in turn, you start to make better decisions. So movement helped me drop 50 pounds, right? It also was the premise of the business that I built. But more importantly, it taught me really how to, number one, follow through on what I say I'm going to do, but also give me a skill to be able to change my state in any place at any time. And sometimes when I talk about movement, yes, I mean, I'm going to go to the gym and I'm doing a full body workout 4 days a week. But sometimes movement too is, going for a walk or going for a hike, listening to a podcast. And other times it literally is a chair dance party. But I make a conscious effort to move my body every single day. And that has allowed me to stay in a place where I can keep moving forward on my goals. And it's huge. Okay. The second habit that I do and have done for such a long time that changed the game for me was journaling. Now, recently I started to add in meditation, which is another variation of what I'm going to talk about. But for me, the biggest game changer was journaling. And it really was the thing that gave me the most massive shift when it came to my mindset and my emotional growth. So what really is journaling? So journaling is essentially just getting a book and a pen and writing out your thoughts. So when I first started journaling way back in the day, that would have been my Dear Diary, right? And I used to write about the events that had happened already. So a lot of times it would be about reflection. Right? This is what happened during my day. This is what I liked. This is what I didn't like. I would write down random thoughts. I would vent about stuff. I would, ask questions. And that process was the first time, and I didn't even realize it was happening when it was happening, but it was the first time I was able to hear myself, right? I was able to look inside and be able to physically look at my thoughts on paper. Things that I'm like, I actually think this? What? And then I started to shift my journaling too, to be more about things I wanted to create. So when I wanted to, go on my weight loss journey, it was like, who did I want to become? What did I want for myself in the future when it came to my health? What did I want for myself when it came to my career and my business? How much money did I want to make? How much impact did I want to make? How many people did I want to serve? Right? I started to journal on these things that hadn't happened yet, which again then would bring up all of these thoughts that I had about that. And I could see where my limiting beliefs were. I could see where I was thinking things weren't possible or were possible, and just allowing space for all of that stuff to come up. And question is, was that really true? Right. And now I journal almost every day. I wish I was perfect and said I did it every single day, but I try to do it almost every single day, especially in the morning before the world gets into my brain, before I start getting sidetracked by, family or the news or work or whatever it is. It just allows me to have some space where I could journal about whatever I want, whether it be gratitude, whether it be about my goals and where I'm going. Sometimes it literally is just a brain dump. If I've got a lot going on and I'm like, oh my goodness, I feel overwhelmed, I'm just putting this all on paper. And this literally takes 10 minutes. And I teach all of my students about the power of journaling, because it's not just about, again, okay, I want to write down my Dear Diary. It really is a tool that can help change your entire life. So you don't need an hour. You don't need the perfect notebook. You don't need prompts. You literally just need a piece of paper and a pen. And you want to do it pen to paper because it helps. Actually, there's a whole science behind that. I will do that in another video, but it really helps for your brain to actually absorb and allow yourself to watch your brain think, as opposed to, if you're doing it on the computer or that type of thing. But just grab a pen and paper and ask yourself, what do I need to hear? Or what do I need to let go of today? Or what do I want to achieve? And just let your brain dump and write it out. It will literally be the best therapy you have ever had. Okay, so my habit number 3 is I learned something. I made a decision years ago that I am going to be an eternal student. I used to feel a lot of pressure on myself because people would see me as a teacher or as an expert, which I am in certain areas of my life. But I also still have so much to learn, and all of us do, and we never stop learning. And I think this is one of the best things for your brain and to keep you feeling passionate, is to be curious. And when I made the decision that I'm going to be a student and a teacher, but I'm going to be a student for the rest of my life, every single day, I focus on learning something. Sometimes it is an area that's completely new to me. Sometimes it is an expansion on something I already am working on or already do, whether it be in my health or my business or my relationships. And it could be something as small as, reading a tiny article or listening to a podcast or taking a full-on course. But I am committed to learning something every single day. And this is a very big shift, going from feeling like everything is, I'm never going to figure this out, that you start to get momentum. And I saw this when I first started figuring out how to lose weight, right? When I was so resistant that, oh my God, I've got something else I need to learn or something else I need to do. When I just started diving deeper into nutrition and allowing that myself to be like, oh, isn't that interesting? And implementing a small shift. Or isn't that interesting how calories actually work in the body? That really the number on the paper has nothing to do with health, right? And then what actually happens inside the body. Isn't that interesting? And then I started to see things differently, right? And I started to expand not just my skill set and my toolbox, but my confidence, because the more we know, the more comfortable we feel. So I really wanted to do it to understand myself, but also understand the world better. And there's so many things, amazing things to learn, right? And that learning, every time I learn something new, it actually turns into action in my life. Maybe not immediately, but it turns into action. And that's the same learning mindset is what actually helped me to lose weight, but it's also what helped me to build a multi-7-figure business, right? Because instead of making things mean different things and getting frustrated, I always am like, okay, I'm curious. I want to learn more about marketing. I want to learn more about coaching. I want to learn more about leadership. I want to learn about how to emotionally regulate myself so I can show up in bigger situations and feel comfortable, right? Learning keeps you growing. It keeps you young. Being stagnation, it kills all dreams. So just even getting to the act of being curious and, okay, what am I going to learn today? I'm just going to learn something today. And again, It doesn't have to be a whole big investment of a year of your life. It could be 5 minutes, but really pay attention to what you're paying attention to. And are you learning things that are going to be moving you forward or that are making you feel terrible and stuck? Just keep learning things that make you feel good. Okay. Even if it's one tiny thing a day, but I consciously do this every single day. Okay, so habit number 4 is focusing on my future self. So this habit completely shifted the way that I make decisions. It completely changed the way I think about my life. So when I was 50 pounds heavier, the version of me would say things like, oh, I'll start again on Monday, or I don't have time for this. And even when I first started in my business, I would be like, we don't have enough clients. We aren't making enough money. I'd be looking at the immediate results of what was going on in my life around me. But then I started taking time. And again, I don't do this every day, but almost every day. And it's usually tied into my journaling. I take time to spend it with what would my future self do? So instead of thinking about what is currently in my surroundings, I started asking myself, well, what do I actually want to create? And the version of me that has that, what does she do? What does she act like? Does she skip workouts? Probably not. Does she choose foods that fuel her body, or does she binge eat? Probably the first one, right? Does she believe that, in growth, and that if she shows up for work, she's going to actually get the clients down the road? She already has the clients. She's like, you just need to do the work, show up, they're coming, right? So it really, for me, allowed me, instead of feeling stuck every day in what I currently had and always seeing the gap between what it was I really wanted, it allowed me to really say, okay, this is who I'm becoming. This is the version of me that has all the things that I want. Now, how do I have to start to bring them into my life today? And I've also kind of added a second question lately too. There's times where, whether it be a big decision or a small decision, I ask myself, is this decision helping or hurting my future self? So even it happened to me the other day with my son, right? He's in kindergarten, and I was having to make lunch. And all I kept thinking was, oh, it's so late at night. I don't want to make lunch. And then I thought, well, Laura, your future self tomorrow morning, who doesn't have to scramble in the morning, who literally could just take the lunch out of the fridge, put it in the backpack, is going to thank you so much. I'm like, I'm making this decision for my future self. If you think about things in this way, you also start to become that version of yourself a lot faster, because you're anchored in thinking about who she is. So these small moments of awareness, it takes us out of looking at our current circumstance and being able to see what's possible for us. And then we start making choices and taking actions based on where we're going, not where we currently are. This is the secret sauce to success in anything, guys, whether it be your weight or your relationships or your business. You have to make decisions based on what you want, based on where you're going, based on who you're going to be, not on your current circumstances. If you make decisions based on your current circumstances, 9 times out of 10, you're going to quit, right? So every time you're faced with a choice, the easiest way to implement this habit is just take a moment and be like, what would my future self do? The one who has the result I want. What would she do in this moment? Would she say yes to investing in the certification or the program? Would she skip her workouts? Would she, tell her partner that she loves them versus holding back? Like, what would she do? And then the second thing is, when you do make a decision, is this moving me closer to her or further away? And that's how you start bringing future self work. Just a simple way. But I do this every single day. And again, usually alongside of my journaling, I'm kind of like, okay, what are my goals? What am I trying to achieve? Who do I have to become? What is her identity? And then I start looking through the lens of, what am I doing today? What will my future self do? How am I going to get there? Okay. And then my final habit that has changed my life and made success possible across all of the buckets in my life is that I always create versus consuming. And this habit is the one that not only has made me such a creative person, but also has been so good for my mental health. And I've seen a lot of people over the years really burn out because they are in consumption mode. And this, again, applies to weight loss or health. It applies to business. It applies to any goal. Is if you are consuming too much, whether that be too many calories or too much social media, and you're not creating, you're not giving back to what you're consuming, it is going to eat you up. It is going to make you feel terrible emotionally. It is going to make you feel terrible physically. And you're not going to be able to do the work in the world that you want to do. And I always ask my students this, if they're feeling overwhelmed, I ask them, how much are you consuming versus creating? So are you in learning mode, but you're not actually creating anything for your clients? You're not creating anything for your community or for the world or for your family. Think about even, eating takeout versus creating a meal. It's a totally different vibe. So I kind of make the rule, like I create before I consume. So again, in the morning, before I pick up my phone, before I open my email, before I even go to, get my coffee, I make sure that I have created something. And usually that starts again, tying back into the journaling, but I create something. And every day I ask myself, what have I created versus consumed? So if I am learning about how to do a podcast, have I created a podcast, right? Have I created an outcome? Because our actions ultimately create our results. But if we don't take action, we are not going to have results, right? So if we are in consumption mode, we're not taking those actions because we're just adding things to our plate versus taking them off or having an outlet. And if you see most humans who have something in their life they create, it doesn't mean you have to be an artist or you have to be a chef, but even just creating a social media post, right? Instead of just scrolling and consuming social media, or creating a piece of content, whether it be for your clients or, a workout plan for yourself. It shifts the gears. It puts you feel better immediately because you're contributing something too. And that could be to your world, or it could be to the outside, the bigger outside collective world. But this really was for me a habit that changed my focus and my output. So when I become aware, I'm like, okay, what am I creating versus how much am I consuming? And after, everyone needs a Netflix binge once in a while. But after I've consumed, a series, I'm like, okay, I got to go create something, right? You feel it, your back is up against the wall. You're like, I gotta get out of this consumption mode. But this is how I've been able to build a brand. It's how I've been able to, have a business too for 17 years, not just build a multi-7-figure business, but be able to have it for 17 years and it still be alive is because I'm constantly creating things for it. I'm not just consuming. So your voice really matters more than you think. It matters a lot. And so many times we're hiding behind consumption and it makes us feel like we're doing something in our lives because we're learning about how to lose weight and we're learning about how to coach and we're learning about how to build a business, but we have to put it back out there. We have to create something with that. So even if you just make it a habit to create one thing a day, one small thing a day that's in line with your goals, in line with your future self, it will change the game for you. And the second thing I'd like to say too is just be aware of how much you're consuming. Do a little consumption audit. Look at your consumption of social media, of TV, of learning, of podcasts, of YouTube videos, of all of it versus how much you are putting back out. And if there's an imbalance, then you definitely just try for the next 3 days to shift that and see how you feel. I swear you're going to feel so much better. So these are the 5 habits that have truly expanded my life in my body, my business, my confidence, my relationships, in every area. They apply to everything. So just to recap, move your body every day, even if it's 5 minutes. Change your state. Secondly is journal. You have to look at what you're thinking. It will literally be the thing. Those things are usually the things that are stopping you, and you cannot change what we're not aware of. The third is to learn something every day. It could be something brand new or it could be an extension of what you already know, but add to your learning bank. Get curious. There's so much to find out. Number 4 is to focus on your future self. Set a goal and get familiar with her. Who is she? What does she do? What is she like? Because the more you know what you need to stop and start doing to become that person, the easier it is to do it. And then the 5th is to create versus consume. Just create something, create it. And I do these every day. They don't take a lot of time. I do them now on autopilot, but these habits made me the woman who could lose 50 pounds and keep it off. It made me the CEO who's been able to, I feel like I'm just getting started. And they made me the person who chases big goals and actually feels good while doing it. I used to hate goals. I used to feel like I was never enough. Now I love this process because it never ends. These habits are always just, they help me grow. They keep me healthy, but they also keep my life so full and interesting. So here's what I want you to remember. Okay. You don't need to do them perfectly. You just need to start. And I really encourage you to just try even 1 to 3 of them, but commit to it for 7 days. If you don't commit to something for a period of time, you're never going to see the results of it. But just pick one, max 3, do it for 7 days, and just let me know how you feel. I promise you, you're going to have momentum and you're going to start moving forward at a pace you never thought possible because your future is waiting for you. You deserve to live your best life. You deserve to feel amazing. At Fit Chicks Academy, that's, really what our whole mission is to help women live their best lives inside and out. And you just need to build the habits and the systems that lead you to her, that keep you in momentum. So if you want more information about Fit Chicks Academy, I've included a link below, but also you could check it out at fitchicksacademy.com, as well as in our free Facebook community, Women's Health Coaches. I've linked that down as well. That's where we hang out during the week, and you can kind of come check us out and learn more about how you can completely transform your life, health, and career.